What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Nation presented by Fandoms Anonymous. We are here this week with another hot episode, and today we're talking about consoles and different generations of consoles and what we like, what we don't like, best generation for games, what we think about downloadable content, virtual reality, and the future of gaming consoles in itself. Shout out to my man James. It was his turn this week to come up with the topics, so I'm going to start off with him. What's going on, James?
Hey there, Malcolm. How are you doing today?
Awesome. I also got my man in front of himself, Daryl. What's going on, Daryl?
Yeah, what's going on, y'all?
And I got my man from Tales of the Blade, Mr. Clay. What's going on, Clay?
Hey, happy to be back, man.
Awesome. And my Power Ranger friend, my man Dan with the plan. What's going on, Dan?
Hey, what's going on, Gamer Nation? How we doing, Malcolm?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First thing we're going to talk about is our favorite and least favorite consoles. Now, I'm a fan of all type of different game consoles. I've played on just about all different type of gaming consoles, except for some of the most newest ones. I have played a Wii U before when it first came out. I was in Best Buy. I haven't played the Switch. I'm more partial to Nintendo. I just am. I'm very partial to Nintendo. So some of my favorite systems and consoles are Nintendo related. I would have to say my least favorite console for me is Xbox. Just too many buttons. You know, I don't need all those buttons. I don't, color coordinate and all that crap. I don't need it. So my least favorite console would have to be Xbox. That's just me. I feel like, it just doesn't do it for me. PlayStation I can get with. I can get with PlayStation and play PlayStation all the time. Definitely, of course, I'm a Nintendo guy, so I can play Nintendo. And, Xbox has just never done it for me. If I ever went to somebody's house and they had an Xbox and like, you want to play? Nah, I'm good. Don't want to play that game because I don't get it. So I'm going to start off with my man Dan. What's your favorite and least favorite console?
Ooh, such a good question. I think my favorite console throughout the years had to be the PlayStation 2. I had to take you back to a generation where, the GameCube was out, the original Xbox was out, and then we had the PlayStation 2 that it sat there. I believe it was the first one of its class to have the DVD player in it. And, it just kind of gave that options, from the beginning, started from everything. Now they have Blu-ray players, etc. We're going to give you options. You buy our console, you just don't get a video game player. You get something better. You get to watch movies, too. And throughout the years, I always had a PS2, always used it as a DVD player to get my content. Now we're on to the next level with streaming movies and everything. I think the PS2 helped start that kind of, the entertainment factor. And then there were so many good games. I mean, we could talk about Grand Theft Auto. We could talk about God of War. Like, the list goes on and on and on of how many good games started from the PS2. Now, my least favorite console would probably have to be, now, it hurts for me to say this, but I really have to go with the Dreamcast. I liked the console, but it didn't give me, like, if you bought a console at the time, you paid a few $100 for it, and then, like, in a year and a half, they were done making games for it. It was like you were a rabbit, and we raised the carrot in front of your head, like, oh, you like this? You like that Crazy Taxi? You like that Sonic? We're going to take that away, and you can't get those games no more except for what you originally have. So my least favorite console was the Dreamcast.
Okay. And the Dreamcast, it was very short-lived, and it's one of Sega's biggest mistakes that I personally, feel like. But speaking of Sega, I'm going to jump this real quick. Since this is a gaming show, Sega is now releasing games on Android and the iOS platforms in the game stores. You can play the first Sonic, you can play Altered Beast, you can play Comic Zone, and some other games that they are releasing as the months are going to go by for Android. Of course, there is an option where you have to pay some type of money So you would pay I think it's $3.99 or so to eliminate all ads in the game. But I played the Sonic game for a little bit, loved it. Kind of got to get used to the controls though. I would advise you to play it on the tablet rather than playing it on the phone because it has one of those touchscreen joysticks and whatnot. So I would advise you to play it on something bigger like a tablet. But I'm gonna throw it over to my man James. What's your favorite and least favorite console?
Well, honestly, I as much as it was a kind of commercial failure, I really did like the GameCube. It kind of hit me at a point where, I was really kind of getting into the games. I'd, been playing video games for a long time when I was a kid, but I really got into them with the GameCube. In particular, in my opinion, the last two really good Sonic games that came out were released on the GameCube. I liked Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I thought those are really good games. Both released on the GameCube at one point. The first one actually didn't come out until after the second one. I believe it was a Dreamcast release, and then later on they released it as a director's cut on the GameCube and did a really good job with it. Some of my best memories are coming from that. Plus, it was the only game system that was actually a cube. So, I mean, it had that kind of weird factor to it. I thought it was, the interface was very straightforward. I think Nintendo built a good quality product there. The controllers were pretty damn decent. I mean, keeping some of their weird, quirky charm, but not kind of deviating too far from the normal controller scheme. I really was fond of the GameCube in particular. It was just an all-around decent system. The system that I dislike the most out of all the generations, in all honesty, has to be the Xbox One. There was so much. This might be a grudge against Microsoft to some extent, but when they originally intended to release the Xbox One, anybody who paid attention to kind of the news going on with Microsoft at the time, they weren't going to let you share games. They were going to, not let you. Basically, they were going to kill used games. There wasn't going to be any more used games market for Xbox because they were going to tie the games directly to your console, to your account. So I mean, and they did all these horrible design decisions. A lot of casual game players really liked the fact that you could watch TV while you played games. The only thing I thought when I saw that was great, now you've just reduced the processing power and made the whole system a lot heavier, where you could have been putting in, more system power. And I feel like that was just kind of a wasted out. It's a gimmick. It's so gimmicky. How often do you sit there and think, you know what, I want TV and video games on the same screen? From my perspective, because I'm definitely more than casual. I wouldn't call myself a hardcore gamer by any sense, but I'm definitely more than casual. And that just, it was almost a little insulting, to hear that from Microsoft, that they were going to do this. And there were a number of other features that I just, always had to be online. It was always listening, and it was such a disappointment. They ended up getting rid of basically every single one of those features that I just complained about. But it still was an underpowered system, and it still that burn from that particular marketing strategy, it really sunk in. I just can't look at it the same way. I couldn't imagine fucking putting up with that and actually trying to give these people money. But yeah, so that's where I stand on it.
Most definitely. I'm gonna throw it over to Daryl real quick. Daryl, what's your favorite and least favorite console?
Well, my favorite console, starting off, it gotta be the Nintendo 64. It was the first game that promoted, a lot of friends playing all at one time. From GoldenEye to, the Mario titles. I mean, the Nintendo 64, was just big for me. Me and my family,
really. So that's why I got to say the Nintendo 64 really, really did it for me. My least favorite console has to be the Xbox original. The Xbox, I mean, okay, you had to have Xbox Live. You had to pay for, a service to play with friends. You use a DVD player. You had to buy a separate remote control. It just, Xbox seemed like it was a cash grab. It was charging you too much. And which, your competitor, you do everything. PlayStation was allowing you to be online with friends. It was allowing you to put your DVDs with the controller. So Xbox, the original, that was my least favorite console.
All right, now, Clay, I'm going to drop it over to you, man. What's your favorite and least favorite console?
You know what? I'm going to go, I can, being as old a gamer as I am, I can honestly drop it all the way back to Nintendo, because Nintendo was, of course, the inception of some of the more involved games that we started seeing from the earlier generations. I mean, of course, with the Atari, you had some simple games, and then Nintendo just kind of came in and ramped it up with some of these more involved, interesting titles. And, of course, Super Nintendo took it, and it just went even further. But I'm going to go actually a little bit further over to PlayStation, and this is the reason why, because PlayStation was kind of the start of a lot of the underdog games that started to come forward. I mean, I take, for instance, one of my favorite game series, Star Ocean. See, we didn't know a whole lot about Star Ocean because of the fact that it was a JRPG, and JRPGs at the time were actually not fully a realized, for a genre of games. I mean, sure, we had Final Fantasy. That was, one thing, but then the genre itself didn't really start to hit until the PlayStation 2. So when PlayStation 1 decided to pick it up and, try to run somewhere with it, you had a lot of really off-the-wall games that no one really knew about. So as an underdog gamer and as a person that loves those kind of games, honestly, the PlayStation really had it for me, and it was the start of something completely amazing. And, of course, we see what Sony's gone and done with the PlayStation franchise, going anywhere from having some of the best handheld consoles I've ever played with, excluding Nintendo, because Nintendo, I mean, let's just face it, they cornered the market with the Game Boy. But when it comes right down to it, they really went innovative with a lot of their consoles and what really drives consoles as a gaming platform, which is why it's honestly, I love PlayStation. I'll always be a huge Sony supporter. Least favorite console? Hey, I'm going to have to take it over to Xbox 360. And I mean, we've already covered Xbox One. We've covered the Xbox and the reasons why they were the lacking. But honestly, even with the Xbox original, they came out with some of the most iconic IPs that we see in gaming today. I mean, let's face it, Halo, Fable. Fable was amazing. That's really it. Now, a lot of great IPs actually did start on Xbox 360. Gears of War, the Dead Space series, all BioShock even. Those were all Xbox exclusives. Gears of War still is, but Dead Space and BioShock eventually jumped platforms. But they started off on the Xbox 360. But at the same time, all they did was recycle the same IPs. So in terms of games, they didn't really go anywhere new, which was sad. And simultaneously to that, the hardware was completely lacking. I mean, not only was it still in HD DVD format, which still had you having multiple discs for one game, whereas PS3 already came out and said, okay, look, Blu-ray, here you go. And then they were able to condense all the information onto one disc, and you still didn't have to download the game to the freaking console. That was the stupidest thing in the world. And then, yeah, the pay-to-play service of Xbox Live, which I still hate to this day, it was all so underwhelming, and it was sad to see that this new generation of console was just going to kind of stay in this like little comfort zone and didn't really go anywhere with it. And then it wasn't until the next generation of consoles, which I'm like, well, you're already a few years too late, man. I mean, PS3 has already smacked you in the head and said, hey, I'm better than you. And then you finally come out with the Xbox One, and now you want to push the Blu-ray. Now you want to push the condensing of information. Now you want to kind of pick up, oh, wait, no, DRM management and all that other crap that, James just mentioned. That's completely what drove Xbox One into the ground initially. But Xbox 360 kind of started it with all the crap that they tried to pull. And it was sad and it was pathetic, and I could do nothing but sit there and pity it. I know that sounds really, really, petty, but I'm just looking at it. It was horrible, and that's honestly why it's my least favorite. Back to you, Malcolm.
Awesome. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is the best generation of games. Now, again, I'm Nintendo partial. I'm just, deal with it. For me, one of the best generation of games for me was the games that came out on the Nintendo GameCube. A lot of those games are still today classic games. You can go on any old school video game store and still find Nintendo games on the shelves. I'm not talking about GameStop, but your old school vintage game stores. They have racks and racks and racks and racks of Nintendo GameCube games. So those games were great. They had so many titles, from sports to adventure to action to shooting to just so much, especially the Mario titles. So for me, the best generation of games is the Nintendo GameCube time period. That, and I'll expand it. The Nintendo 64 all the way to the Nintendo GameCube period, which also included around the time the PS2. So I'm going with 3 systems: 64, GameCube, and PS2. Some of those PS2 games were awesome. Daryl, I don't know if you remember the time I had borrowed that big stack of PS2 games from a friend of mine, and we just went through that list playing all those games, especially that Wolverine game that I had. That was an awesome story play game. So I got to give it to 64, PlayStation 2, and GameCube. So, James, what about you?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you, to be honest with you. In particular, the most impressive section of that generation for me was the PlayStation 2 offerings. I mean, Sony and the third-party publishers really did a good job of kind of getting together on that system. I mean, there's so many PlayStation 2 games out there. There was one made even not just a few years ago. There was another PlayStation 2 game that came out. I think it was a soccer game or something. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly on GameCube. In particular, I'll touch on PlayStation though to keep things kind of interesting. But PlayStation, I mean, we had, what was it, three Grand Theft Auto titles released on the PlayStation 2, and all 3 of them are some of the most widely played games that have ever come out. I mean, San Andreas, I think I sunk probably well over 1,000 hours into that game in my youth. There was just so much to do. It's such a goddamn big game, and the system was well geared to handle it. They pushed out really solid titles during that time period, and some of the greatest classics that we know of today, like Shadow of the Colossus and Ico, those kind of more Japanese-oriented but classic games that came out during that period, along with Grand Theft Auto, some of the best racing games in general. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to put my money on there, or my vote in for the best generation, it's got to be PlayStation 2, GameCube, Dreamcast even had a few good titles. There weren't many, but yeah, that section. And even though I would probably say the N64 more of the previous generation, but they continued to make games for a while. So I mean, I kind of throw that in there too. It was just a really, really good time in the gaming industry as a whole.
I'm gonna throw it over to Clay. Clay, hit us with it.
All right, so let's take a look at the greatest generation of games. I'm actually, before I get too far into this, I'm going to step to the side and go ahead and agree with the both of you on the GameCube, N64, and PS2. I remember my mom asking me the question, like, what do you want, for Christmas? Do you want an N64 or a PlayStation? And before, I really started vibing with Sony, I was all over the N64. And, of course, the GameCube had some of the most amazing games from my childhood. And, of course, PS2 is where they took what Sony had started and really just ramped it up to the next level and brought all that amazingness to the next generation. Of course, is where we hear, most people who don't know about certain franchises they knew about it from the PS2, but not the earlier days of. And now I know that a lot of the viewers or the listeners are going to be sitting here thinking, well, what about Nintendo? What about the original first? They honestly started it out. They took everything and they gave us the IPs that led to where we were to that point. So PS2, N64, GameCube, that stuff wouldn't be there without the Nintendo jumping in. But that's all well and good. But when you take that something that was already started and completely ramp it up to this whole new level of innovation, which the N64 did, which the GameCube did, which the PS2 did, it was something that was just absolutely mind-blowing for its time. So in terms of the great generational turnaround, or even, climax, we'll say, I would actually have to give it to those three consoles in that generation because that was just a phenomenal time for games. It really was.
Dan, hit us with it, man.
Oh, man. Honestly, I think my favorite, I know how much we talk crap about Xbox, but I think the era with the PS3, the Nintendo Wii, and the 360 is probably the best because there was a new generation of graphics, a new level. Like, I totally agree with you guys. PS2, GameCube, the original Xbox, they paved the way. But this new generation could really fully live up to the potential. I mean, there were so many good games. I mean, we look over at Xbox, and they have all the Call of Duty fans are over there, get to play at a new level. And then you've got, like, so many other games that I feel like were good, not the best. But then you look at Sony, and they took the PlayStation 3 to another level. Like, PS2 was good, but when you got a PS3, you could do everything right away. Free online gaming. You got, like, all your streaming services, everything right away. Xbox, they did charge you, but at the time, Xbox Live for the 360 had more internet servers. So you got a little bit of a faster, that was kind of their ploy. I'm not really sticking up for them, but that was their whole way to get you to come over to Xbox is you can be faster in Xbox Live. Then the Nintendo Wii, they innovated games. They changed things. Like the GameCube was good, but the third party, they just didn't. A lot of other developers didn't really give them the time of day. With the Wii, everybody was making games. Everybody and their mom wanted to make a game for the Wii because it was a system that no matter if you were 5 or if you're 85 years old, you could pick up a Wii remote and play the game. It was pretty incredible. I think that generation kind of linked. It was like it did pay homage to the years before it, but it innovated the way that we're going now.
And Daryl, I'm going to leave it with you, man. What's up with you and your favorite game?
Well, don't try to take me first, okay? Hear me out, okay? Now, I do agree with y'all, with all y'all said, and I agree with Clay, how he was talking about how these systems take away. But I got to give it up to the current generation. These current generation of games are so great, even with the graphics, even with the gameplay. This morning, I was playing a game called Skyfall. I played a game and I was just sitting down and I was figuring to get out. And a guy came up to me and said, hey, I need help with a mission. Wrote me, said you need help with a mission. I jumped in and helped him. You got to think about, how I was able to help him. We didn't have that in the past. We had to get together. We had to call your cousins over and get together and, make a game plan. Now, you can just write someone and you can help them out, with the game easily. And then another thing, okay, back in the old generation, let's talk about with Sega, Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, all these platforms, they was beefing. They will not work together at all. Sony is not going to work with Xbox. Nintendo won't work with Sega, okay? But now they got cross-platform. You can go play Rocket League with PC, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, all generational consoles in one game right there. So I got to give it up to the current generation, and where it's going, I love it. I'll give it back to you, Malcolm.
Awesome. So we're going to move on to something I really don't know a lot about because I'm not playing the new generation of games. So I'm going to throw this over to Clay. Clay, I want you to take this topic over. We're talking about downloadable content and pre-orders. Take it away, Clay.
All right, so let's talk about downloadable content and pre-orders. Now, that is, let's just start off with the DLC, downloadable content. That topic right there gets such a bad rep, and I want to start us off like this and saying very simply that DLC does not get the respect it deserves. Now, let me explain myself. When it comes to DLC, everybody immediately wants to jump in and say that's a terrible thing because it's basically, creators, pushing out content for a game that may be incomplete. Extra story missions, stuff at the very end of the game that should have been already in the game. Because you go to the store nowadays, you pay $60 for a game. You're expecting to get the full deal right there. It's on. Let's go. And now they got things like season passes, which will run you anywhere from $20 to almost $40 to $50. I can't remember which game actually did that, but there was a season pass that came out for $50, and it was insane. It's like, why would you charge $50, almost the price of an entire other game, for DLC content, which I can almost guarantee you will not match the amount of information data that the game itself already takes up. So you're going to push this extra content out for almost the same amount of money that you pushed out the game for. But here's the thing about that. You've still got creators who are taking the game, instead of releasing a second game, they're pushing out extra story. They're pushing out extra characters. And I'm not talking about like extra skins or anything like that, weapons, things like that. I'm talking about extra story that goes to the end of the game, that continues the game, that shows something else. And instead of releasing a new game with it, they push it out as DLC. Now, you got somebody who's sitting still at their desk, still on their computer, still doing their modeling, still doing their voice acting, mocap, everything that goes into a game. And you're expecting them to not get paid for it. That's what a lot of people, that's where I beef with a lot of people when it comes to DLC, when they say that it's not worth paying for. I'm like, you got somebody who literally just went out to say, hey, we're going to give you this extra story because we know you want more, because this game was actually interesting and you had fun with it, but here's some more. But yeah, we kind of want to get paid. I mean, that's the nature of the business. You're in the business of that. Now, some companies, to their credit, I will say this, to their credit, like Nintendo, they do push out DLC from time to time, without adding extra fees. And that's okay on them. But like with Super Smash Brothers, yeah, they made you pay for characters, they made you pay for levels, and then you got Shovel Knight, which released an entirely different story and a bunch of level sets with characters, and didn't charge you a thing. So it really kind of bounces from individual to individual. But on my stance on it, I think that DLC is perfectly okay. And honestly, if they want to charge you for it, as long as it's not completely unreasonable, I'm all for it. Now let's talk about pre-orders. Pre-order bonuses anyway. I've always had kind of a little bit of an issue with. I mean, yeah, one store offers this, one store offers that, online offers this. It's a crapshoot because not long after that, you get to pay for the same thing that everybody else already paid for. So with that, it's kind of a mixed bucket when it comes to me. So that's my honest opinion on DLC and pre-orders. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Malcolm.
Awesome. So I want to hear from Dan. Dan, what do you think about pre-orders and DLC?
Yeah, I really want to talk about the pre-orders, and I want to talk about a category that doesn't really get talked about at all in the gaming community, kind of laughable. But I want to talk about sports for just a quick second, because with the new generation of sports games they're coming out with, it's all about a storyline, like a real, actual, playable storyline. 2K17 just came out with it this year in NBA, and I play this game like I'm a gamer. I play this game like 2 hours a day, like at least every day, play with a buddy, play it online, do as much as I can. In this game, they give you a storyline where it's not just like you playing the life of a player. Like literally, they have this like a cinematic movie where like your partner is a character played by Michael B. Jordan. And you have to like he's the second round pick, so he kind of hates you deep down. You got to play against him kind of. It's a really cool story. But what's coming out, Madden, I already got a pre-order. EA sees what 2K is doing, and they're trying to get a storyline. So now we have all these other sports games that are getting storylines. So I kind of want to talk about a few games that actually pre-ordered right off the rip. I already got 2K18 pre-ordered. It's got Kyrie Irving on the regular cover and then Shaq on the legendary cover. And then Madden, the GOAT edition, has Tom Brady on the cover. Just thought I'd point that out real quick for Gaming Nation.
Definitely, most definitely. Now, I want to talk real quick and throw it over to my man, James. What's up with you, James, and your DLC and your pre-orders?
So with DLC, I don't typically have much of an issue with it. There are occasions where you see DLC kind of as a money grab. That does happen quite often. I remember one in particular back when The Elder Scrolls Oblivion was big. They actually announced a DLC just to get some cosmetic armor for your horse, and they were charging like $2 for it. It's literally just, all it does is it's just armor that kind of looks cool on your horse. Doesn't do anything else. Nothing at all. To me, just to reskin the horse and charge $2 for it, that's not an effective use of what DLC provides as far as an opportunity for the company goes. And I think that for the most part, most companies don't make this mistake, and I think Bethesda learned a lot from that experience, because the DLC that they put out with Skyrim and a lot of their other titles ended up being a lot more worth the money, in particular with the recent Fallout 4, they did really well into DLCs. The last one that they put out, the Nuka World DLC, was practically, it was one of the biggest DLCs I think I've played in, I don't know, forever. It was huge. It added a whole new map, a whole new storyline, new mechanics. It was wonderful, and they did great with Far Harbor too. It did a very similar thing. It was a little bit smaller, if I remember correctly, but they learned from the mistake that they made, and I think that it comes from criticism from people like us and other gamers, and also, kind of a pseudo boycott. You have to withhold your money when somebody does something you don't agree with, and that'll segue into pre-orders as well. I have something to say in regards to that, but when it comes to DLC, I would say never get the season pass, and you might end up paying less in the long run if you decide to get all the DLC that comes with. But the thing is, a lot of times, a lot of that DLC is just filler. You might get one good actual DLC with a decent story improvement, and then you get 3 others that are a basic, just adding a mechanic or adding, like I said earlier, with the skins, the horse skins. I mean, you're gambling a lot with that. You're trusting these companies to know what's best, or to know how to give you what your money's worth before they've even had the opportunity to show you what you're really getting. Now, you can argue that the game itself, if it's a good game, you can generally see that you'll probably get a good DLC. You can probably judge based off the quality of the game you get. And the company's credibility, but a lot of these companies don't have credibility, EA and Ubisoft and whatnot. A lot of these big AAA game producers really don't have any credibility with people like me, where we've seen kind of what they've promised and what they've actually produced, and it ends up ruining what would otherwise be a really good game for us. Speaking of Fable, for instance, there were so many things promised with Fable that never saw the light of day. Fable 1, Fable 2, and similar things happened with Fallout and Skyrim and whatnot. But those things, those were still good games. They didn't. There was hype there was a certain level of hype that it just didn't live up to. No Man's Sky, another one. You know, this is why you really shouldn't pre-order games either, because No Man's Sky was literally a case of false advertising. The lead creator went. I mean, if not, maybe not from a legal sense. I'm sure he skirted around the legality, but he went on, did an interview. I can't remember what the show was exactly, but it did an interview where he quite literally said you'll be able to see other players in the world, and that didn't actually play out. It was kind of he had a little bit of a caveat, because I guess at one point you were able to see like a bot that had another player's name, but it wasn't actually the other player. So, you know, No Man's Sky, I never bought No Man's Sky. I watched it. I said that, you know, this might be a decent game, but I never bought it because I wanted to wait and see what happened. And sure enough, what do you know, it ends up not living quite up to what it was promised to be. So when it comes to pre-ordering games, I used to not care so much. I used to go ahead and do it and get the little, you know, freebie extra shit that you get, or I'd go get the, you know, collector's edition and whatnot. What you're doing is you're guaranteeing sales before you've seen the final product. And in gaming, because there's so much hype that revolves around like bigger games before they come out, you have to be able to temper yourself, because you can get really excited about a game, throw your money at it, and then it comes out and you wish you never bought it. So if you want to be able to tell, if you want to be able to communicate to gaming companies that you're not satisfied with their product, you need to withhold your money from them. And if you pre-order, you kind of give up the ability to do that. You know, same thing with DLC with the season pass. If you buy the season pass, you're telling them, I trust you, just give me whatever the fuck you're going to give me. You got my money already, whatever. I don't think we should do that. I think we should, as gamers, we should manage our expectations and assess things after they've been released. You know, look at game reviews, look at shows like this where we talk about, you know, kind of the what we like and what we don't like. You get a better picture of what you're getting. You get a better sense of whether you should be spending your money on these things or not. You know, it's the only way. You have to give feedback to the companies, otherwise they don't know what's good and what's not. So, you know, when it comes to those two particular subjects, I'm not against them doing it in practice, and under certain circumstances, I think that it's not necessarily a bad idea to pre-order. You are gambling no matter what. There's no situation where you're not, you know, taking some of your finance at risk here, but there's definitely, you know, there's a few companies like Nintendo. I'm never going to blink an eye about pre-ordering a game. If they announce something that looks good, then I'm probably going to, you know, I'll probably put down the money on it. But they have the credibility for me to feel comfortable with doing that. I did not do that with the Switch, and I'm kind of glad I did, because there were some problems from a technical standpoint on release, and so I'm waiting kind of for maybe like a second gen that's been kind of retweaked, and it's not, you know, doesn't have as many of the technical issues that the original version had. You're always better off in kind of waiting on that kind of stuff, but when it comes to their games, I always know there's going to be quality, so I don't even hesitate.
And last but not least, Daryl, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Okay, so I pretty much feel just like how the other guys feel. I mean, you feel like they was in my head, just reading the notes I got in my head. But I'm starting with pre-orders. Okay, I feel like a pre-order bonus should be where it says. It should be a bonus. It should be a gift. So we telling you, hey, we trust you. So since I say I trust you, you give me a bonus, you give me a gift. So an example is this, like let's say Mortal Kombat. if I pre-order your game, you say you're gonna give me, a classic skin, a classic costume for pre-ordering. Now I can understand that, but giving me some characters that I feel like should be already in the game, I don't feel like that should be a bonus. You're taking something out the game that should be already there and trying to give it to me for pre-ordering the game. I don't feel like that's fair. So that's my only thing against pre-orders. Give me a bonus, give me a gift that shouldn't be in the game that you're giving to me. Don't take some out of the game and try to give it to me and then charge, some other players something later on. Now, as far as DLC goes, it's basically the same thing. Like, it should be a story continuation, okay? Let's take Skyrim, for instance, okay? We know Skyrim was based off of Alduin, okay? So once you finish Alduin, the game is over. Okay? But then they gave us some DLC where we can fight the Vampire Lord, or we can fight the original Dragonborn. That's DLC. Because you give me a continuation to a story, or you give me something new. You give me a new threat. Now, they had one DLC called, Heartfire, where you can basically start a family and build a house. That shouldn't be DLC. That should already be in the game. So, like I said, I feel the same way about DLCs, kind of like pre-orders. Don't give me something that should already be in the game. Give me a story continuation. Give me something new. So if game companies can keep doing that one, it'll be fine. But if they don't, it's like how James said, save your money on the season pass. Save your money on pre-orders. Wait till a YouTuber gets the game, review it, and watch it that way. Because as of now, the pre-order bonuses are not good, and some of the DLCs, like with a season pass, only one part of it you might like. You might not like the other two parts that come with it. And you're paying $40 to $50 for a season pass. Almost the same price of the game. So I agree with all the guys on the panel, okay? Save your money. Pass it back to you.
You guys all made some very great valid points when it comes to downloadable content and pre-orders. I want to touch real quick on something. I'm going to just pass it over to one of you all. Virtual reality gaming. I'm gonna let Clay take this one, and we're going to move on to our last topic. So, Clay, talk to us about virtual reality gaming.
Virtual reality gaming in its current state honestly feels a little gimmicky. From everything that I've seen on virtual reality, even while incorporating some of the games that are currently on the market, like, say, for instance, indie games like Emily Wants to Play, which by itself, as a PC game, was a really interesting horror game. I actually have a Let's Play on my channel. I'm not plugging that at all right now, really. But as a game itself, to put it in VR, feels a little gimmicky. And then you see some of the VR games that are actually out right now that, like Job Simulator and things. And I'm not saying that it's limited to that. There are some games that look okay, but it feels like it's too young. It feels like we're not quite ready there. We're not quite ready to fully immerse ourselves in what VR can really offer, because you see what people do with certain VR in certain aspects, like VR playrooms, where they have basic obstacles set up around the room, but the VR makes it seem like so much more. It really feels like, in situations like that anyway, that VR is moving on to something that's amazing and fantastic. But when it comes to on the market as a whole, it's the same thing as laser tag. At certain areas, you have laser tag that's fantastic, it's amazing. But then you go to the store and you're like, I want to get some laser tag equipment, and I want to buy that, and I want to go out in my yard and play, and it's not the same. It's like these little cheap vests and these little plastic guns that really have really bad targeting vectors. And it's not what you came to expect from VR areas like Quasar and Laser Zone and Fun Station and things like that. So it really feels like it's too young for VR. We're not quite there yet. And as far as affordable, oh my goodness, the affordability is nowhere near where it needs to be. It's kind of sad to watch a headset go for the same amount as a gaming console, or sometimes even more. So we're not quite there yet, I feel, with VR, but it's interesting to see that some people are getting into it. But for me, I'm just no.
And just to get one more perspective on it from a different shed of light, I'm going to let James touch on virtual reality real quick. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I have a setup that could run VR and very, very easily and very effectively, and I don't. And the reason for that is not like I don't have any animosity towards the idea, but I have to agree that the technology is far too into its infancy to really give it the time of day from the perspective of somebody who's casual at the very when it comes to that kind of setup. I mean, like we're talking a system that is kind of built to be more for casual gamers because, who is going to be attracted to the gimmicky idea of, it's virtual reality, at least at this point in the technology's life cycle? Who's more interested than your average person who doesn't really understand it, but they think it's a cool concept, So I would probably not set up my system to run VR until the technology improves. And I actually do see some really interesting improvements along the line. I think that by the time that VR is actually like a legitimate kind of product or a legitimate setup for gaming, you're probably going to have a lot more to it than just the visual and kind of spatial aspect. I've already seen there are technology firms that are currently working on trying to implement touch and taste and smell into it. And I think that is going to be what ends up taking VR to the next level and actually making it kind of a feasible product for not just your casual gamers, but the people who are willing to spend that kind of money, like real gamers, will start getting into it when it becomes a sensory experience. Because at the moment, you're standing, you're attached by a cord, you've got some weird apparatus strapped to your head. It's not ergonomical. You can't spend hours playing a game like that. You get motion sick. You're standing around doing something. What you have to do is you have to make it a fully immersive experience. And at the moment, it's only partially. Now it does the partial shit that it does when it comes to the visual aspect. It does very well. I think it does. There are certain programs that are very effective at kind of tricking the brain, and especially when you're blinding yourself and using a computer to control your arms and whatnot. It can be very visually deceiving, which is kind of the idea. It's kind of the point. You want it to be. You want it to feel like it's really happening. The problem is right now it's too disorienting. It's not effective at making people comfortable while playing the game. It's very uncomfortable while you do this. So anything that they do, they're going to have to make it so that people who really want to actually take part in a serious gaming experience are going to want to fork out the cash for something like that. And I think that it's going to have to get to that next level. I don't know if that's going to happen in my lifetime because, there's some restrictions to how effective that can be as far as technology goes right now, but it certainly could happen. And if it does, I think then it will really take off.
Awesome. Now, we want to just jump on this last topic, and I want you guys all in 1 minute or less tell me about the future of gaming consoles. James, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think that as of right now, I'm seeing the market kind of narrow in the sense of what each company really wants to do. Nintendo, I don't think, is going to change much. I think they're going to keep trying to innovate in whatever ways they can while still keeping the old stuff fresh. I think Microsoft is going to have to make some changes. And if they make the right changes, which, we'll see what happens, but if they make the right changes, they could potentially be the big dogs in the next generation. I think what's probably going to have to happen is your current gaming consoles are going to have to go to a modular setup, similar to PCs, where you can purchase more high-end parts and you can purchase low-end parts, and you can kind of pick, based on your price range, what you want to get out of it. I think if consoles did that, they'd give PCs a run for their money. They would probably even convert some PC players to play console exclusives. It could work out for them. But that's where I see, and I hope that the future of gaming tends to go, is to more compatible and more customer friendly.
Dan, 1 minute or less. Future of gaming console.
The future of gaming, I think, is going to be great. I mean, E3 this year blew my mind, and that's just this year, 2017. I mean, PlayStation is going to go hard. No matter what they do, they touch, they always bring the fireworks. Like Jimmer said, Xbox has to come at this at a different direction. I think they still could be pretty relevant, but they do need to change their tide and go a different way. Nintendo, they just, no matter what, like every couple years, they always have either a new system or like a really good game coming out exclusively for it. I mean, for people that said video games die out years ago, they were lying. Video games are going, and like VR could take it to the next level in a few years. I agree, it's not ready yet, but we're almost there. Just imagine that. If we could play some crazy game, your Call of Duty, your Gears of War, something like that, in your virtual reality. Just imagine.
You with the same question.
Okay, well, to me, I feel like the future of consoles are about to die. Okay, and this time I say that. I think Nintendo is going to be the only console that's going to survive, because I feel like PlayStation and Xbox aren't consoles anymore. They're just outdated PCs. That's all they are. So I believe in the future, it's going to be how James said. You're going to have the PlayStation 5, and that's going to be it. And you're just going to be to upgrade your hardware. That's all. You're going to have the Xbox Next, and you're just going to be to upgrade your hardware. So to me, the future of consoles I think, is coming to the last generation. Nintendo is going to be the only console that's going to survive. That's what I feel about that.
Most definitely. Last but not least, my man Clay.
Just to keep rolling what they're saying, I'm going to have to agree. The future of consoles will always be dictated by the gamer. The gamer will, whatever they want in terms of what they expect out of their games, be it graphics, be it gameplay, will always dictate how the future of consoles will evolve. And whatever they say in terms of what they're putting their money on, like we were just talking about with DLC and pre-orders, whatever they're putting their money into is where they're going to see the market thrive, and that's where they're going to see the growth of consoles in terms of their power, in terms of their capabilities, in terms of how they're going to evolve. So really, it's always going to be down to the gamers. That's why, guys, you really need to be watching and putting your money where you know you're going to want it to grow, and that's all there is to it.
Most definitely. For me, when it comes to the future gaming, I'm still going to always be a Nintendo fan. Sooner or later, I'm going to jump into some of the new consoles that Nintendo has. Thinking about getting the Switch, but with my addiction to pop figures, I think it's going to be harder than average. So, gaming is always going to be here. We're always going to be playing games on our phones and our tablets, on our TVs, and, with the future going on with virtual reality. But this has been an amazing conversation on video game consoles on this new episode of Gaming Nation presented by Fan News Anonymous. Just going to go around the line real quick. My man Clay from Tales of the Blade, where can we find you at?
As always, guys, you can find us on youtube.com/Tales of the Blade. We do gaming videos, cosplay videos. We do all kinds of other videos. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Tales of the Blade. Come on over there, join us. We're always happy to see new faces, have new people. And guys, much love and peace.
Most definitely. My man Dan, where can we find you at?
You can find me on YouTube, D-BROZ Bras. You can also find me on Instagram, River City Records, or you can find me on Facebook, Dan Brosnan, or D Bras, or Press Play Entertainment. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Most definitely. My man, Daryl, where can we find you at?
Well, you can find me on Inferno Share Play videos, and you can find me on the Fan Anonymous Facebook page. I'm always on there, willing to talk about gaming or anything else y'all want to talk about.
And this week's showrunner, Mr. James, where can we find you at?
You can find me at facebook.com, the Cappy Goy, doing political and philosophical commentary. And you can also find me on YouTube at the Cappy Goy.
Most definitely, most definitely. Next week, Dan Brosnan will be our showrunner, so stay tuned for some updates. We're going to be broadcasting what we're going to be talking about. I hope that Dan brings us an amazing topic, just as James brought us this week. But, guys, if you don't know who we are Fandoms Anonymous. That's FANDOMSANONYMOUS. We're all over social media. We're right here on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell for future videos. That's how you can find out when we're doing more stuff. Also, head over to Facebook and hit that Facebook fan page and hit the like button for me and join our group. Like Daryl said, we have discussions each and every single day. And head over to Instagram where we're at Fandoms_Anonymous17. We got a lot of stuff coming up on the Fandoms Anonymous YouTube channel. We saw Baby Driver this morning. Amazing movie, amazing movie. So our non-spoilers and full spoilers review is headed your way. Also, some other episodes of things that we record and working on. If you haven't already, checked out some of our unboxing videos, a Loot Crate unboxing video. If you guys have not, if you guys are like me and you like subscription boxes, the Batman animated series, I must stress this again, the Batman animated series box from the Legion of Collectors closes on July 1st. If you have not subscribed to that box yet, you need to go ahead and subscribe to that box. There's going to be some amazing goodies in that box, all dedicated towards the Batman animated series. I am already subscribed, and I'm ready for that box. If you haven't seen my Marvel Collector Core unboxing box, not unscribing, what word is that? Unboxing video, go check out that video as well. Got a lot of stuff, as I always say, coming up. But, as I always say, if there is anything else, thanks for watching. You guys have a good one.
Fandoms Anonymous.